She is accustomed to getting death threats and is so bad that when she wanted to leave Venezuela on a secret mission, she had to use a disguise. Well, today, Maria Corina Machado has emerged from hiding. She's tough. She continues to take on Maduro's people, and she intends to run for president of Venezuela. She joins me on the set right here in Washington. This is actually a big interview. And Pam Bondi is back in town, the former Attorney General on Capitol Hill testifying about the Epstein files. Plus, do you recognize this woman? Police need your help in identifying this lady who obviously lost her cool. And then, this did not go well. Even Elon Musk had some words of sympathy for his fellow billionaire and competitor rocket man Jeff Bezos. I'm Greta Van Susteren. This is The Record. Today at the White House, a bit of a mystery. What is being decided? President Trump gathered his team in a Situation Room, and the topic, Iran. We are waiting for a readout or a Truth Social post to tell us what the president has decided. Meanwhile, we have some developments on who may next want to take over the White House.
I didn't start talking about 2028. I got the 100th question of the morning about it, and I said, I'm not making plans, and I saw all the headlines, you know. I never thought I would run for governor, so I guess I should know better to say, never say never. But I don't want any distractions as I wrap up my 8 years as governor.
That was Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She is not the only Michigander with possible 2028 plans. Who else? Senator Elissa Slotkin and former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who now lives in Michigan. CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp joins me, as well as former Special Assistant President Biden and former Press Secretary First Lady Joe Biden, Michael LaRosa. Michael, first to you, since that was Governor Whitmer, a Democrat, and besides the fact who picked those chairs. I mean, it looks like they can fit 3 people in those chairs. They always do that to women. But anyway, Whitmer, is she running?
It didn't sound like it. I mean,
when she said never say never.
Yeah, she kind of walked back her definitiveness when earlier in the day she said that there's a lot of people running and none of them will be me in 2028. But then she kept the door open. So I think that's probably just her. But she doesn't sound like the kind of candidate who's hungry for it, is my point. And we'll see. I know Biden came very close to picking her as a VP. He probably would have done fine with her. I think they probably would have had a great relationship. And she's extremely likable and very popular. She's a 52% approval rating in Michigan, and she got reelected in a cakewalk.
Do you know what the one problem that I think she has? I mean, I haven't dug into her a lot, but I mean, I like Midwesterners, as you know. But remember when she was in the Oval Office and she didn't want to be seen on camera, and she did this?
Yeah.
That was like, you know, that would be in every single ad if she ran. Like, what's she hiding from? And she didn't want to be seen in the Oval Office of President Trump. I thought that would be used against her.
Look, the part of my brain says it's the Democrats have a great opportunity to pick it up in 2028, but then I look at the field and it's pretty wide open, and then you see Kamala Harris leading a lot of these polls.
Is she leading?
Yeah, I've seen her leading in polls. So, you know, that seems crazy to me. Of course, I'm not a Democrat, and I think Democrats have turned a little crazy. But they don't have the ready, obvious candidate. I think people really thought Gavin Newsom was the guy. Mm-hmm. Not the guy?
I don't know. There's going to be
It's wide open.
It's wide. I think it's wide open. I don't think.
And by the way, that's not always a bad thing.
No, I think it's a good thing. It reminds me a little bit more of like 2008, if anything, or maybe 2020. Look, Pete Buttigieg is an extremely likable candidate. There's nothing to not like about the guy, and he has everything that you'd want in a candidate. He's a great communicator. He has the look. He has the brains. I think the only issue with Pete is that he's going to have some of this residual Biden association, and he hasn't been super impressive in answering questions about Biden. But everybody kind of wants that new car smell, and he hasn't gone away.
But you know what the funny thing? I mean, I don't think it was Biden, because he was over at, was he at Energy? Or where was he?
No, Transportation.
And that's so removed from the White House. It's not like Secretary of State. So I don't think of it as Biden.
But he's not fresh. And I think Elissa Slotkin is fresh. And she's not only like a great communicator, she's very comfortable in her own political identity. She doesn't take any shit. Pushed back about her defense of AIPAC when she took a little trip out to Iowa and she was questioned by a progressive agitator. She was really, really impressive. She has a CIA background. I like her.
All right, Matt, Iran. I mean, it's one minute it's one thing, another minute it's another thing. There's a deal, there's not a deal, I think. And I know that President Trump said that he's not going to be concerned with midterms, but
you kind of like that when he says that.
Well, yes, except when you start looking at the numbers, there seem to be a lot of people within the Republican Party that are rattled by it.
People hate it when he says it, but the president should act like the president. And if he believes that keeping a jihadist government from getting a nuclear weapon is worth a little political capital, I respect that. I think
but some people may not come out and vote in the Republican Party, getting out the vote.
Let me get to the problem with it, right? Which is he's got three buckets that are really problematic: fuel prices, food prices, rental prices, right? Housing prices. And the fuel prices are really wrapped up into what he believes is a bigger calling in Iran. But the problem with the fuel prices is it's affecting the farmers, right? And the ag people, they're paying crazy for diesel and propane and everything else in rural America. And so he's got two really tough buckets there. And every time he says meat's too high, the ranchers go crazy because they're not making a lot of money, even though we're paying a lot on the shelves. And so you have this other bucket, it's housing. I really think they should put the pedal to the metal to try to do something on housing. Here's a statistic I didn't realize. 2.5 years to save for a down payment in Trump's first term, 12.5 years during Biden. It's still 7.5 years under Trump, despite the fact that some things are getting better. It takes a long time to save for a house. It's one of the reasons why people have such anxiety. It's one of the problems we have heading into November is they tend to blame the guys who have the majorities.
Not to pick a scab, Michael, but former First Lady Joe Biden has the book out. And she said that...
I love this topic.
Well, at the debate, she said she thought that her husband was having a stroke. And then like not long after, she said this about him on stage. Let's roll the sound.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Michael, when she did that back then, I was watching. I thought, man, she's treating him like a kindergartner. Joe, you answered every question, and I felt, and it was embarrassing. I thought.
Yeah, it felt like a little bit of forced making lemons out of lemonade that night, but she went along with whatever the strategy was at the time, which was to say, oh, he was fine. It was a bad night, and they moved on, and that's kind of the story
But I would have at the time, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in the facts, but he had just crisscrossed 2 international flights. He'd gone, I forgot, almost back-to-back international flights, which will beat you to death. Yeah. I don't care if you're on Air Force One, but I would have gone with that instead of saying, Joe, you answered every question. Good for you.
Even if she had said exactly what she said to Rita Braver in the CBS interview, that would have been better, because at least she would have sounded like a concerned spouse. Because now she's trying to say, oh, my reaction was just like yours, just as concerned as you. And look, I'm going to say, it won't cut it. She's created more confusion
I'll say what
and
he can't
skepticism.
Say. And this, you've never told me this, but I believe that she was all in on this idea that it was great for Joe Biden to be president. We can all fill in the blank as to why. And she was all in on whatever it took, and so was Karine Jean-Pierre and these other people. They were all in on whatever it took to try to say there's nothing to see here. We all saw it. We saw it in the speeches. We saw it when he didn't know how to get off the stage. Every indication.
Which is why I really appreciate, so that we can judge for ourselves, and rather than trying to look around the corner, the transparency of President Trump is whether you like him or you don't like him.
Right.
You know exactly what you get. So with
I agree, but I was somebody that pushed for a more active presence, engagement with the media.
How about any? How about any?
I know.
Presence?
Well, I'm being generous.
And I gotta go. Thank you, gentlemen. Nice to see you. Have a great weekend. Michael LaRosa, Matt Schlapp. Coming up, what's next for Venezuela? I'll speak to the leader of the opposition, Nobel Peace Prize recipient Maria Corina Machado. That when the record continues.
People can't stop talking about Rob Schmidt.
I trust the news from Rob Schmidt every single day.
They say he's no BS.
No BS. No liberal crap.
He hates liars.
The honesty and up-to-date news and none of the fake news.
He tells it better than anyone.
Everything is straight, legit, real news.
He's your voice.
Rob Schmidt, 7 p.m. Wouldn't miss it.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
I love Newsmax.
Immunolun 50 may be the best food supplement in the world because it contains 70 plant minerals and 80 other nutrients. The 3 videos on our website tell you how this product and 7 times more minerals can improve your health.
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
Nobody wants to put a new roof over their head. It's too expensive. And if they can extend the life of that roof and get 5 more years or 10 more years, it's a no-brainer.
What Roofmax does is it helps people in that they don't have to spend that $15,000, $20,000 on a new roof. They can spend pennies on the dollar.
The Roofmax product was a small percentage of cost of replacing a roof.
Get your roof treated now, but pay later, with no payments for a full year.
Finished my chores. Ready for my allowance.
Greenlight is way better than how I got paid for chores. Mowing all those lawns really paid off. That was not radical.
Bring your family into the financial future.
Immunolun 50 may be the best food supplement in the world because it contains 70 plant minerals and 80 other nutrients. The 3 videos on our website tell you how this product and 7 times more minerals can improve your health.
Do you remember this? 5 months ago, President Trump stunned the world when in the middle of the night he sent our troops to Venezuela to capture Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro. The first look we got of the newly seized president was several hours later, his shocking perp walk in New York City. This was a sight many Venezuelans seeking a democracy thought would never happen. In the last several months, the Trump administration has been working with acting president and former vice president under Maduro, Delcy Rodriguez. Venezuela's government has opened up its oil industry to the United States, and on Wednesday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this.
Since January 3rd of this year, okay, and I think this number's right, but I think over 10 million barrels of Venezuelan oil have been delivered to the United States since the 3rd of January. That industry is being professionalized for the first time ever. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. They are selling oil in the market at market rates. The money's going to an account in the United States, controlled and monitored by Treasury, audited by KPMG, and it's for the first time ever the money's not being stolen. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people.
But it's not clear who will lead Venezuela into what America hopes is a new relationship between the two countries. Leader of the Venezuelan Democratic Movement and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado joins me. Nice to see you.
Great to see you in person.
In person,
Great.
Yes, indeed. We've spoken before. Secretary of State Rubio just talked about some contracts that are being set to deal with oil between the United States and Venezuela. Just to get it clear, in the event you become president, what about those contracts? Will you honor those contracts?
Well, we've been very clear about that. We will certainly not only respect the terms of legally signed contracts, but we will even improve conditions. So there would be those investors that are seeking long-term relationship with Venezuela that will come to us asking to adapt previous conditions to the new terms. So it's important that everybody be clear and secure that we will maintain and respect that.
All right. Are you going to run for president of Venezuela?
Certainly I am.
When, though? Because I was doing a little research, and it said that you're supposed to have an election 30 days after a president leaves or is removed. It was really sort of unclear. Presidency ends. And it seems to me, I don't know how it's interpreted in Venezuela, that we're well past those 30 days, and we have Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, taking control.
Well, first of all, it's important to remember how we got here, because there was an election on July 28, 2024, under extreme unfair conditions. And the regime did not imagine what really happened. We won by a landslide. So that's why we insisted that Nicolás Maduro was not a legitimate president. And I think that gave the ground, the legal and moral ground, to what happened on January 3rd, which we are very grateful to President Trump and Secretary Rubio. Since then, Secretary Rubio has stated a 3-phase plan, which is stabilization, recovery, and transition. So free and fair elections are in the U.S. government plan in the 3rd stage. It's not clear, though, the dates, and what we insist is that Venezuelan people are suffering, are desperate to see a democratic change, and that it is important to give certainties in terms of when this process will move forward.
What's your guess when it will happen in the election? Because that's obviously important.
Well, we are seeing very important steps being taken regarding the repressive structure being dismantled. This is very important. Hundreds of political prisoners have been released, and we are seeing also for the first time in the media people speaking out about the truth of how our people are suffering and acts of corruption, something that was unthinkable. Even my name being said in a TV program would be enough to close a media outlet, to close it.
Well, you were banned from running last time, too. Venezuela banned you from running.
I won the primary process in 2023 with a 92% of the votes, and immediately Nicolás Maduro banned me from running for the elections because he knew what was going to be the result. So we found an alternate candidate. I supported him, and that's how we won with 70% of the votes 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago. Now what we're saying is, even though we won, we want to support President Trump's plan, which involves in its third stage a new election. And we said, okay, we're willing to do that. We're supporting this plan. We want it to work smoothly and getting to that stage in which we will have legitimacy. Once you have legitimate government, then you can really invest in creating rule of law and the sanctity of contracts and international international arbitration for private investments, and also the return of our people. Almost 9 million Venezuelans have been forced to flee. It's a third of our population. It's a huge diaspora.
Which is, a lot of them have come here, which has been a controversy. A lot of them because they're not desperate. The economy in Venezuela has just been, I mean, the inflation rate, I know that ours is 3.8, and what is yours in Venezuela now?
Over 650%.
Which it's
the largest in the world. Largest in the world.
Largest in the world. You work for a month and maybe you can buy a loaf of bread.
A teacher earns $1 a day. And that's why our children go only twice a week to school. Public school works twice a week because teachers need to get something else, have to do something else in order to survive. So this is not sustainable. And this is growing, and what we need to channel this desperation is in a civic, orderly path so that Venezuelan people know that things are going to change, that we have the support of the international community, and something very important, which I mentioned before. You mentioned Venezuelan people here in the States. It's over 1 million Venezuelans. They were asked in a recent poll if they wanted to go back, and 65% of the Venezuelans in the U.S. said they would immediately go back after a democratic transition.
See, that was what I was going to ask, because I imagine, the people came here out of desperation because they wanted to feed their children, and because it was just impossible in Venezuela. And people like their homes. And so that I was sort of curious whether or not you thought that a good portion of the people here, if there's a democratic government and an improved economy, you have so many resources. You have more petroleum resources than Saudi Arabia. There's so much to be had there.
But in order to have that, all that potential and resources being translated into wealth, you need people. You need talented people. We need the Venezuelans who left come back. And they will only do it, as you say, if they have the certainty that we will have justice, we will have freedom, we will have dignity.
What does the vice president, now the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, what's your relationship with her?
I've never talked to her. I don't know her.
And what's her story?
Well, she was the person in charge of the relationship with China, Tehran, and Russia. She was the main liaison with her illegal groups, transnational illegal groups. And as vice president of Nicolás Maduro, she was the person in charge of the torture and repression system.
So I take it she doesn't want an election.
But of course she doesn't want an election, and she doesn't want to release the political prisoners, but she's doing what President Trump is telling her to do. So that's, these very important steps that we're seeing taking place right now in Venezuela that were unthinkable 5 months ago. It's because she knows there's a credible threat. Now, how can we move ahead? Because, look, we have the opportunity to turn the criminal hub of the Americas, which is Venezuela, into the energy hub of this continent and into the strongest ally in energy, in security, in trade, in business, and democracy with the United States.
Security is particularly important because I don't know if many people pay much attention, but Hezbollah has a foothold in northern Venezuela. I mean, Hezbollah, which we read so much about in the Middle East, the Lebanese Hezbollah, they're in Venezuela too.
And they have received, many of them, Venezuelan passports and IDs to move around the world. Over 10,000 Venezuelan passports are believed to be given to irregular agents of Islamistic groups that certainly work in Venezuela. In Margarita Island, it's known that there's a cell of Hezbollah currently operating. But, you know, this has been, we warned the world, Greta, for decades that this was happening. It took the vision, the courage, the decision of President Trump and Secretary of State Rubio to move ahead. Now we have a huge opportunity, a country that is united. Venezuela is not like Iraq or Afghanistan in terms of the fragmentation of societies when regime change took place there. This is a different situation. This is a country that has the same religion, the same beliefs, that there are no racial fractures or regional fractures or even social or political. I mean, 80% of the population wants the same. We have a democratic culture, and we are organized. And our main hope, desire, long is to bring our children back home. This has turned into a spiritual struggle, and that's why we will prevail.
Well, good luck with that. And I went to Venezuela in the 80s. It was beautiful when I was there, and I'm sure it'd be beautiful. I'd like to go again. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming up, a federal judge in Atlanta got caught behaving badly, very badly. Some of it is X-rated, but we're going to tell you what we are legally allowed to say on air. That when the record continues.
Wake Up America Weekend.
Good morning, I'm Kyle Lauder.
And I'm Kenzie Beach.
It's a Wake Up Weekend with Kyle and Kenzie.
We're here to help kickstart your weekend.
Grab your coffee and join us at 7 a.m. only on Newsmax.
Aging isn't something that happens later. It's happening right now. We age because our cells age.
Fatty 15 helps to reverse aging on a cellular level.
And just one daily capsule has over 36 cellular benefits.
Basically acts like an armor for your cells. You should definitely try Fatty 15.
Planning that perfect family vacation? Turns out, the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools can be installed in weeks. Our pools won't stain or crack and never require costly resurfacing. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. Summer installation is still possible. Visit LathamPool.com today.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I didn't know how to turn all this fancy prettiness into a classy-looking logo. But GoDaddy Aero does, with its magical AI powers. It not only creates it, it slaps that sweet thing everywhere.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 five-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
People always ask me how I stay ready, how I lock in when it actually counts.
They think I must be on something. It's pure, it's potent. It's all me. Something that never lets me down. Armra. I'm on it.
I wish I wasn't afraid to smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish I knew who to trust.
I'm not looking for another quick fix.
I want a smile I know will last.
Clear Choice smiles are made to stand the test of time. They're built by dental implant experts, backed by 20 years of pioneering research and a lifetime warranty on premium arches. Our smiles are built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
Today, former Attorney General Pam Bondi was back in town testifying on Capitol Hill. The House Oversight Committee questioned her behind closed doors on the Justice Department's handling of Jeffrey Epstein files. As you will recall, the DOJ released more than 3 million pages of Epstein documents. The Oversight Committee wants to know whether some files were withheld and why some alleged victims' names and personal information were exposed in the documents. In a copy of Bondi's opening statement, she said, quote, "There were redaction errors," end quote. Bondi also described the release as enormously complicated and labor-intensive. But Bondi also said, quote, "To the best of my knowledge, the department produced everything required under the Epstein Files Transparency Act," end quote. Before the hearing, Oversight Chair James Comer was asked about the files and whether more people could be brought in to testify.
If you lie to Congress, it's a felony. So it's we're bringing them in. We're bringing people in that have never been brought in before. Most of the people, what I find fascinating about this is we brought in Epstein's top assistant, we brought in Epstein's lawyer, and we brought in Epstein's accountant. They were never interviewed by the people who were supposedly investigating Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. How do you not interview those three people?
So who might be next to testify? Democrats in the Oversight Committee say they have questions for Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. He has not been subpoenaed. Professor Emeritus at Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And for the life of me, I don't know why we're still going on with this investigation. It's taking longer than anything. But your thoughts on this?
Well, because they don't want to get to the truth. If they wanted to get to the truth, they would call people like me. I indicated a willingness to testify without invoking any privileges, without claiming any reason not to answer. I know the truth about what happened between, say, 2000 and 2010, and I know how overblown all this is. There are 4 categories of people who have claimed to be victims, the real victims, those who are underage that really were victimized, and then the 25-year-olds who kept coming back over and over again for $250 to give a massage. Those are transactional. And then there are those who came back for more money and then pimped themselves and got younger women to come in and were paid for bringing in. And then there's the 4th category of women who never met Jeffrey Epstein, and their sleazy lawyers got them to file perjurious claims saying that they had given Epstein a massage and they got $50,000. I know the truth. I know the facts. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the facts. They can't handle the truth. So they call witnesses who will invoke privileges, who don't know anything, who are defensive. But the last thing they want is the truth, because the truth will show how overstated and overblown all this has been.
Well, I'm actually sympathetic to Pam Bondi. Admittedly, she is a friend, but she had 30 days to go through a tractor trailer full of documents with thousands of duplicates, with all on CDs and everything else. And it meant pulling everybody off other investigations. I know she had signed Todd Blanche to oversee it, but it was an absolutely impossible task to begin with. But what I don't know, have you picked up the phone and called Comer and said, "Hi, I'm Alan Dershowitz. I know a lot. Can I please testify?"
I said it on television over and over and over again. I don't have a relationship with him, but if he wants to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to him, either in private or public. I've never withheld any information, and I know a great deal about this, but they don't want to know the truth. That's the problem. They just don't want to know.
What do they want?
What
do they
happened.
want then? What is the point then? What do they want? What is everybody seeking?
Political benefits. They're all, people, congressmen are just lying through their teeth about what happened here, and they're unwilling to find out the real truth. And, I asked Jeffrey Epstein directly, Do you know anything about Donald Trump? Do you know anything about Bill Clinton? You know anything about famous people? If you do, tell me. I'll get you a better deal. And he was very motivated to obviously give me anything he could. Do you work for the Mossad? Do you work for CIA? And he said, no, 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 no. And that hurt him and contributed to him getting an 18-month sentence. He probably would have gotten no sentence at all if he had been able to turn in other people. You know, when I taught criminal law at Harvard, I used to say, if you're a criminal, is always commit crimes with somebody more important than you are, rather than somebody less important, because you can turn them in. And if Epstein had anything on important people, he would have given it to me, and I would have given it to the government. But, you know, this is all completely overblown and designed just to get political attention. And so much attention is being paid to this. You know, there's a big debate now about whether Joe Biden's testimony videotape should be allowed out. If he had said a word about Jeffrey Epstein, they would have him all over the place. They're willing to protect the president of the United States from having his testimony apparently revealed, but then they're perfectly happy to produce phone calls. Let me give you one example. One example. Among the things they produced is a statement by an anonymous woman. Her name is not given. It's redacted. It says she's an adult. I think I know who she is. She's 30, 35 years old. And what she says is that she had sex with Donald Trump and then she bit Donald Trump's penis. Now, that's a clear lie, but they protect her, but they name Donald Trump. All throughout these revelations, they protect the names of lying witnesses.
But how does that help the Republican Party? They're the majority party in the House. They're the ones calling the hearings. How does it help them that their president gets that? And I mean, I don't see the political advantage.
Well, there's no political advantage to the party. There's political advantage to individual congressmen who get a lot of attention and are seen by the public as protecting victims. But many of the victims are not real victims. Many of the victims are perpetrators and perjurers and conspirators and co-defendants. So I would love someday for the whole truth of this to come out. And it's much grayer, not as black and white as I think the members of Congress, for their own purposes, would like to present it. Someday the whole truth will come out, but not while these politicians are determining who is called and who is not called.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get a hold of Comer next week and tell him that you want to testify, because maybe he's not watching this show. Anyway, Professor Alan Dershowitz, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, we have an update alert. We have learned the identities of a federal judge and a police officer caught having sex in the judge's chambers. Bloomberg Law and a local ABC affiliate are citing anonymous sources. You know how much I hate anonymous sources, but they are reporting that the federal judge is Judge Eleanor Ross. She's a district court judge for the Northern District of Georgia. The police officer has been identified as Atlanta Police Department Deputy Chief Kelly Collier. This week, the affair was exposed after a judicial report was made public. That report upheld a private reprimand of the judge. According to a judicial complaint, for 2 years, Officer Collier would visit Judge Ross during work hours. Then the court clerks would hear music, kissing, and, quote, unsettling noises. The Atlanta Police Department is investigating the incident. Neither Deputy Chief Collier nor Judge Ross has commented. Coming up, President Trump was in the Situation Room for 2 hours. We have the latest. That one, the record continues.
All across the nation, people can't stop talking about Carl Higbie and Frontline for the big news they need to know. Watch Carl Higbie, Frontline, weeknights.
Immuno 150 may be the best food supplement in the world because it contains 70 plant minerals and 80 other nutrients. The 3 videos on our website tell you how this product and 7 times more minerals can improve your health.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, You don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
My paycheck was just deposited into my Greenlight account.
Greenlight is so convenient. You know, we had to use a vacuum tube.
Where is it going?
Bring your family into the financial future.
It's time to bring your vision to life at Cabinets to Go, where you'll find our best-selling collections at 45% off. From Harbor Town White and Nantucket Fluff to Spring Hill Hickory, Montpelier Sage, Annapolis Blue, and Chalet White. In-demand collections up to 45% off now through June 9th. Shop and save on our most popular styles in showrooms nationwide or online. Only at Cabinets to Go, designed to wow.
In America, we believe in hard work, family, and taking care of our own. That's why SafeStep walk-in tubs are proudly designed, built, and assembled in the USA, in the heart of Tennessee, by more than 300 hardworking Americans.
My name is Michelle Johnson. Lamination is where we put the fiberglass, resin, and gel coat on the actual product.
Skilled craft professionals, building every tub with precision, care, and pride. With a low step-in design, built-in safety features, and soothing therapeutic jets, SafeStep helps you stay comfortable, confident, and in control.
My name's Angela Peters. We make sure everything is as perfect as it can be.
When you choose SafeStep, you're not just investing in your home, you're supporting American families and American jobs. Call now for your free in-home consultation and ask about our special offer. SafeStep walk-in tubs, made in Tennessee, made for you.
Immunolon 50 may be the best food supplement in the world because it contains 70 plant minerals and 80 other nutrients. The 3 videos on our website tell you how this product and 7 times more minerals can improve your health.
Has Trump reached the end of his rope with Iran? Is there a deal or no deal? Will there be a deal? Well, the New York Times is reporting that the president is pushing off making a decision on a deal or no deal. And today, President Trump summoned his team to the White House Situation Room. Before they closed the doors, Trump posted on Truth Social his terms. I'm sure Iran is reading the president's post. We all are. Trump's terms include no nuclear weapon nor bomb for Iran. The Hormuz Strait will be immediately open. The naval blockade will be lifted. All water mines and bombs to be terminated. Nuclear dust to be unearthed by the United States, and no money will be exchanged. Founder and president of the Eurasia Group, Ian Bremmer, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And, you know, you read that, and then you read what Iran is saying. It doesn't sound like the two sides are really talking to each other. They must be talking to somebody else because they don't seem remotely close.
They're talking to each other, but they're talking publicly to different audiences. And so if we do get to a memorandum that is agreed to, and both sides are saying they're close, then they will be talking publicly in ways that look mutually exclusive. The important question right now, Greta, is whether we get the strait reopened or not. That's what everyone is waiting for. And we do look closer to that reality than we have at any point since the ceasefire. But ultimately, President Trump has to make a determination of whether he will accept an agreement to reopen the strait with transit and with demining, but not with negotiations concluded on the nuclear file until after that is the case. And there's lots of reasons to believe that the Iranians will not be very forthcoming with a future nuclear negotiation.
Well, the Iranians have a history, at least in my opinion, of being deceitful. So we're dealing with people that have not been straight with us. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the president has made very plain the whole reason we went into this in the first place was to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon or the capability to enrich uranium to the point of making a nuclear weapon. Plus, you've got the problem is that the president has criticized President Obama over and over and over again for giving cash to Iran, but Iran wants reparations, which is cash, and they want sanctions lifted, which unfreezes their cash. So it's a little bit complicated.
Well, of course, at the beginning of the war, Trump wanted to keep oil prices down, so he actually suspended sanctions on Iranian tankers getting out, which allowed them to make a lot of money with higher prices to the Chinese, the Indians, and others that were buying it, which is, Greta, cash. Now, going forward, you may have seen that the Iranian foreign minister was recently in Qatar, and there have been negotiations about unfreezing $6 billion of Iranian assets that would be given to the Iranians in a lump sum if the strait is reopened. Now, the president, the secretary of state, will surely say that that is a Qatari decision, has nothing to do with the United States. The timing is merely coincidental, but the Americans won't be giving the Iranians pallets of cash like Obama did. That would be the Qataris. So clearly, politically, he's trying very hard to say this isn't what Obama did.
All right, is there any deal possible that doesn't include Iran getting rid of its nuclear capability?
There's not a conclusive deal. There is an interim deal that opens the strait, at which point you've got 60 days to negotiate removing or diluting the enriched uranium on the ground in Iran. And Trump has recently posted, and he's loosened his requirements there, said doesn't have to necessarily leave the country if you dilute the uranium on the ground. So he's making it easier for the Iranians to accept. There would clearly be economic inducements in terms of sanctions being lifted, more assets being unfrozen, if the Iranians were to make good on that, but that would take time. And again, the negotiations that we are looking at right now, the purpose of the 2-hour-plus situation room meeting that President Trump had today is not about a final dispensation on the nuclear file, which, as you say, has been a consistent reason that Trump has given for going to war. It's about reopening the strait, which was open before the war started, but has been closed for the past months at great cost to pretty much every country around the world, including the Iranians, of course.
And of course, it makes it complicated that that Iran is falling apart both economically, and their leadership has been upended, to say the least.
Well, the leadership is interesting. So, of course, 150 of their leaders have been assassinated. Having said that, they are now reopening their restrictions on the internet. Last weekend, there were a significant number of military leaders that publicly attended a memorial service for one of their fallen colleagues. Both of those things imply, Greta, that the Iranian leadership feels more confident, A, that they're not going to be targeted for assassination, and B, that they have some level of stability in being able to maintain control over their own people. Now, they may be completely wrong in that assessment, but those are interesting data points that we hadn't seen in the last several months of war.
Ian Bremmer, thank you, sir.
My pleasure, Greta.
If you don't like heights, you might want to look away from the screen, because 8 high school students in Galveston, Texas got stuck on a roller coaster. And as luck would have it, this was not just any roller coaster. This is the Iron Shark. It has a 100-foot vertical lift and reaches speeds of 52 miles per hour. About 5:30 p.m. local time, the ride got stuck on the initial ascent. Firefighters were called. They used a tower truck that reached a maximum of 105 feet in the air. Remember, the ride's vertical lift is 100 feet. Rescuers had to carefully, very carefully slide each student from his seat. All 8 were brought down one by one. The rescue process took more than 3 hours. So what was going through these students' minds? Here's the fire chief.
You could tell they were shaken up visually. And then you can see a sense of joy as well once their feet hit the ground. So I think they definitely were shaken up from the experience. But you could tell a big change once they got down and they touched ground.
Chief added there were no injuries. The amusement park says the roller coaster is designed to immediately stop when there is a problem. This was definitely a problem. Coming up, police need your help. Do you see this video? It is our outrage of the day. That when the record continues.
Your neighbor just paid an enormous amount for a new roof, but he didn't have to, and neither do you. Because Roofmax can add years of life to your current roof. Here's how you know you have a problem with your roof. Black streaking, your roof looks rough, or granules shedding off into your gutters or showing up in your driveway. Your roof is wearing out too fast, and it's going to cost you a bundle. Roofmax makes your roof like new by strengthening and rejuvenating it. Get your roof treated now, but pay later, with no payments for a full year.
Are you ready to save big this summer?
Doesn't everybody want to save money?
The Consumer Cellular Summer Switch event is finally here. You could cut up to 50% off your big wireless bill. And right now, save an extra $50 off with code SAVE50.
Go save some money. It's just a great deal.
You'll get the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage you get from big wireless for up to 50% off.
Same tower, same coverage.
I'm getting big wireless coverage without the big wireless price tag.
Big cities, small cities, rural areas, rock solid.
Now is the best time to switch all year during the Consumer Cellular Summer Switch event. You could cut up to 50% off your big wireless bill. And right now, save an extra $50 off with code SAVE50.
I switched to save money. I stayed because I love Consumer Cellular.
Consumer Cellular customers rank us #1 in network coverage satisfaction.
The customer service is amazing.
You get a person right away, and it's inexpensive, too.
Yes.
Get unlimited for just $35 a month for one line.
I got the benefits of ARP and the quality service from Consumer Cellular, so what a happy marriage. It's just a great deal.
You can keep your number, you can keep your phone.
Or get a new one. We've got all the latest phones. You can talk with a U.S.-based sales rep in about 15 seconds.
That phone call reduced my bill by almost 50%.
I'm saving about $50 a month.
The switch process was incredibly easy. Touch a button, and that was it. I was switched.
Save money. Save money. Make the switch.
The Summer Switch event is the perfect time to make the switch. You could cut your bill by up to 50% and call right now to save an extra $50 off with code SAVE50. And AARP members save even more. So call now and save big during the Consumer Cellular Summer Switch event. Call 1-800-649-1326. That's 1-800-649-1326.
You're told to optimize, to hack. There's always a promise of a better you. But what if you were never meant to be fixed? Your biology knows how to thrive. It just needs a reminder. Armor Colostrum reawakens that brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival. This time, remember what you're made of.
It is time for our outrage of the day. Police in Orange County, California are looking for this woman. She was caught on camera at a local Chipotle. This customer was allegedly angry about her food order. She started yelling and then threw her bowl of food at the employee's chest. Santa Ana Police Department are looking for her and released this footage. Police say after this food throwing incident, which is an assault, the suspect fled the scene. It's not clear exactly what set this woman on fire. Meanwhile, a fire explosion at Cape Canaveral last night. Blue Origin was doing an engine test on its new rocket. During the test, which is known as the hot fire test, the rocket exploded. It caused a huge ball of fire on the launch pad. People saw the flames from miles away. Some people even reported their homes shaking from the explosion. Luckily, no one was on board the rocket. Blue Origin has called it an anomaly. Its owner, Jeff Bezos, posted on X, quote, "All personnel are safe and accounted for." He added, quote, "Very rough day, but we will rebuild whatever needs rebuilding and get back to flying," end quote. Elon Musk, CEO of SpaceX and Blue Origin's rival, weighed in. He wrote on X, quote, "Most unfortunate. Rockets are hard." Musk himself has seen at least 2 rockets explode on the launch pad. And some great news. This involves us here at Newsmax. We continue to expand around the globe. The latest, Poland. Foreign correspondent Trent Murray spoke with Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy in Poland about our expansion.
Well, we are in the Polish capital for what is a very exciting day for this company, Newsmax, officially expanding into Poland. And the man that got the deal over the line is Newsmax founder and CEO, Mr. Chris Ruddy. Always good to have you back in Europe.
Trent, always good to see you here in Europe.
It's a big day.
Well, it's a very big day. It's a big day for Poland. It's a big day for Newsmax. I think for America, too. As American media, an American media organization, we have been in the Balkans, one of the largest cable news channels in the Balkans with Newsmax Balkans. Millions and millions of people watch our news, and now we're very excited. Poland is the emerging great country of Europe, and we now have a Newsmax Poland. They call it Newsmax Polska, but we're very honored to be here.
I wanted to ask you about that. Why did you find Poland was a good fit for Newsmax, in your view?
Well, our partners, Telekom Serbia, which broadcasts Newsmax in the Balkans, I think they see, as I do, that Poland is emerging. It's sort of the new Germany, what Germany was to Europe for 40 years, the dominant economic power. Poland has had incredible governmental leadership here. They've had great economic growth, and they're the strongest military in NATO. And I think Americans, President Trump, for instance, is increasing his support for Poland, putting more troops here, because he sees how the Poles are really living up to their promise to have a strong military.
I saw you on with Rob last week talking about Q1 results. How does this international expansion fit into the broader strategy of the company?
We just had our annual shareholder meeting, and I said the international licensing and partnerships, we, Trent, are in over 100 countries now. Newsmax is carried. Tens of millions of people can tune in every night to Newsmax, some in local language, which is really amazing. I think people got tired of CNN International for so long. They'd like to have an American brand that represents American values, real journalism, real news, and we're doing that.
While I've got you here, I have to ask, we are preparing for a visit by the President next month for the G7. I know you speak to him often. Where do you think things stand right now when it comes to the European-America relationship?
Well, look, Donald Trump will never tell you that he's completely happy with everything you're doing because he wants you to keep living up to a new standard. He has done something that's absolutely historic. He got all of NATO to agree pretty much to a 5% GDP spending. We weren't even spending 5%. He's gotten them. They're increasing. Poland is almost at 5%, which is amazing, before he even asked. And so now that momentum and strong military action is going to be very important in the years ahead. We have Russia that's very belligerent. We have an Iran situation. We have a rising China. And I think the president sees really the importance of Europe. That's why he's asking them to step up. So I think the relationship's going to be strong going forward. And I think Newsmax being here will only help to strengthen it.
So we always enjoy having you this side of the pond.
Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll send it back to you.
Coming up, could we see the return of DJ Marco Rubio? He may be getting a new job. That when the record continues.
Closed captioning by America Tax Group. Stop IRS and state collections. Free consultation. Call now.
America Tax Group is the nation's leading tax firm that has helped millions of taxpayers resolve penalties, remove liens, and stop wage garnishments. If you're dealing with IRS or state tax issues, don't wait. Call now.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helps some dolphins age healthier than others. It's called C15, and the more they had in their diet, the healthier they aged. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, Fatty 15 is bringing this discovery out of the ocean into everyday life to give your cells the same age-related benefits as all those happy, healthy dolphins. Fatty 15, healthy aging for all.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no co-pays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Finished my chores. Ready for my allowance.
Greenlight is way better than how I got paid for chores. Mowing all those lawns really paid off. That was not radical.
Bring your family into the financial future.
You're careful about what you bring home when shopping, especially when it comes to feeding your family. Shouldn't your investments work the same way? At Timothy Plan, we offer a wide selection of mutual funds and ETFs that can help you allocate assets without compromising your values. From technology to healthcare, energy to real estate, our funds are not only diverse but uncompromising to your values. Timothy Plan funds are filtered to avoid companies involved in abortion, pornography, human trafficking, and other harmful agendas. What you invest in should reflect what you stand for. Are your investments bearing good fruit? What's in your portfolio? Contact your financial advisor today to find out, or contact Timothy Plan directly at 1-800-TIM-PLAN to discover more. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Yes, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the man of many jobs, may have a new one to add to his resume. One user on X has suggested Secretary Rubio might need to become a pop star to perform at the America 250 celebration. Secretary Rubio already has DJ on his resume, so a pop star is not too far-fetched. The latest Rubio meme comes after one of the performers who pulled out of the festival, Bret Michaels from the band Poison, citing threats as his reason for canceling. Meanwhile, it's full steam ahead for America 250. The festivities are scheduled to begin in less than a month, from June 25 to July 10. There will be concerts, exhibits, and tributes on the National Mall. It's all to celebrate America's 250th birthday. Meanwhile, he has a new home. This buffalo is now a resident at the Bangladesh National Zoo. Do you remember him? He got a lot of attention around the world. Why? Because many people say he looks like President Trump, especially because of his hair. He used to live on a farm and was going to be a sacrifice for a ritual slaughter. That would have been horrible. Now the government has stepped in to pardon him. They bought him from the owner and moved him to the zoo. And don't forget, I have a new podcast called Greta Wire. You're going to like it. It's different. I just posted about a case Natalie Holloway have been investigating for, can you believe this, 21 years. Wait till you see what I found out. You can subscribe now to my podcast on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at newsmax.com/listen. Thanks for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is next. Stay with Newsmax.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.